Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of Coach's Thoughts, and today we're going to tackle this topic of what weight should I use, which has got to be one of the most commonly asked questions of coaches from people attending a gym. Really that question is about like, hey, I want to get the best workout here. What weight should I put on the bar, or what weight should this kettlebell be? The concept that we're going to discuss today, you could extrapolate this question out to, hey, what movement should I do? As in, hey, should I do the pull-ups in this workout? Or how fast should I run? Do you reckon I should run every 400 meter in this workout, coach? So really, this was a bit of a hook, if you will, to discuss this topic here. Scaling, which is something that in CrossFit, at some point or another, doesn't really matter who you are, you're going to have to do this, whether it's because there's a capacity lacking for you, or there's a little niggle that you might need to change or something like that. If you do CrossFit for long enough, you will definitely need to scale workouts. And when most of us start, we have to scale the first few workouts we see. So why do we scale in CrossFit? Why do we change workouts that are written on the board as prescribed? It's not just a matter of, oh, I can't do that weight. Even though sometimes that might be the case, there's actually a little bit more logic behind it. This is why we as coach will look to scale an athlete. First of all, we want to preserve the intended stimulus of the workout, and we want to bring the athlete closer in time to doing the RX version. There's a few things to be discussed within these statements. First of all, if we want to preserve the intended stimulus of a workout, that implies that we have to have an intended stimulus of the workout. A lot of the named workouts, the benchmark workouts, their intended stimulus is inherent. For workouts that have just been programmed by a trainer or a coach, the coach and trainer should have in mind how they want this to play out. Hey, I want this to be a really lightweight where athletes go fast, and that can guide scaling by preserving that intent. Bringing the athlete closer in time to doing the RX version, this is just sort of speaking to playing the long game around developing an athlete's capacity. So if we've got a workout with a very heavy weight, I'm going to scale you in a way, not just about making it more accessible, but also thinking to myself, hey, one day I want to develop the fitness so that you could do this weight or do this movement, whatever it might be. Good scaling from a coach will use key CrossFit concepts of variance, so changing up things, and then this idea of mechanics come first, then consistency, and then intensity. And often this is the thing that will guide scaling. It's like, hey, you can't do that. You can move that weight, but you can't move it with good mechanics, at least not consistently. So I don't want the intensity on that yet. Let's drop it back down. Let's talk about preserving the stimulus of a particular workout and some good scaling that we can do. And I'm going to use a pretty classic workout that if you've been doing CrossFit for any period of time, you'll know this one. Oh, on the next slide. Just some definitions. These are really important for us before we jump into scaling. How can scaling make a workout harder? So that's a really important point. Often people think scaling is making it easier. It can make it more accessible. That doesn't necessarily make it easier. It can make it harder. In fact, as we're about to see in the workout I was talking about, it will make it harder. So intensity is what is going to make a workout feel hard. The power output of your workout is what's going to make it feel difficult. So intensity is average power. Average power is force multiplied by distance divided by time. These equations, if you're not familiar with them, they will make sense in just a moment. The higher the average power, the higher the intensity, the more a workout can challenge you. In putting it simply, I can figure out the intensity of a workout using some basic maths. And there's a chance that if an athlete tries to use a weight which is too heavy for them, their power output will drop, therefore their intensity will drop. That means their results won't be as good and they won't get, quote unquote, as good a workout. So let's have a look at the workout that I was referring to before. We're comparing Grace. This is a classic CrossFit workout. 30 clean and jerks for time. We're going to look at the male RX version. We're just going to stick with one version today because there's a lot of numbers flying about here. So Grace asks for 30 clean and jerks as quickly as possible. The RX weight for men is 135 pounds. And let's contemplate an athlete that can do this workout in 7 minutes. Let's not That's not crazy. That's sort of like a time you would definitely see if you had enough people at the affiliate come in and do Grace on that particular day. The maths of this workout tells me that this is the athlete's average power. They do 30 reps. Every rep they move the bar 8 foot. I didn't measure this out, but I think it's not unreasonable to suggest that from the ground to overhead is roughly 8 foot. And they do it in 7 minutes. This works out to be a power output of 4,628 foot-pounds per minute. So this was the athlete attempting it RX at 135 pounds and doing it in 7 minutes. And if I stand over this side so you've got a clearer view of this, this is the same athlete who scales this workout back to 95 pounds, which is 43 kilos, and does it in 4 minutes. The power output on this one is 5,700 foot-pounds per minute. Don't worry about the actual numbers. All you need to see is this. That number is bigger than that number. So this athlete, by scaling this workout, was able to have a higher average power output. And because of that, they're going to have a harder workout and they're going to have a workout that potentially gives them more results. Okay, so this is just something to contemplate. So a question that I suppose comes from this, so should you always scale for max average power? Should I always be trying to choose the weights and choose the options that makes this number as big as possible? And the answer, well, it's a little bit grey. Not necessarily, but it's a really good question to start with. A really good question to start with is, hey, what's going to allow me to do the most work and do it in a really reasonable time frame that's going to get my power output up? However, there's a caveat to that. In the name of variance, it's okay to choose the less intense option. Not all the time though. Going to go back to this Grace example and give a little bit more context. How about we say that this is the same athlete again, but they've done Grace like this the last 5 times they've done it. Perhaps the coach walks up to them and says, hey, do you know what? I think you're ready to tackle Grace at a little bit of a heavier weight. Yep, it's going to be a little bit slower, but I want to push you to experience something you haven't experienced before, and we accept together, provided they can hold good positions, that even with a lower power output, embracing variance is a really, really important thing for us to see results in CrossFit. So I hope these two factors make sense in terms of, hey, what weight should I choose? You're considering what keeps the power output up, but also what is a good expression of variance for you. And that might be going heavier than usual, it might be going lighter than usual. So I want to give both sides of the equation. Let's talk about going heavier for more power output. So let's take the same workout, Grace, and we've got this 4-minute Grace at 43 kilos, which was 95 pounds. And we saw that this equaled 5,700 foot-pounds per minute. If that athlete though, rather than using 60 kilos, or 61, went to 52 kilos, which is 115 pounds, and then did the workout in 4:45. That's not unheard of, hey, that they would add, what's that? That's 10 pounds to each side, or 5 kilos to each side, a little bit more. And then add 45 seconds. They're probably, let's say, 7 to 8 reps behind that Grace over there. This number is now bigger than this number. So it's not as simple as, well, lighter equals more power because I can go faster. There's going to be a sweet spot somewhere. It's going to be light enough for you to go fast, but heavy enough that you're still moving some weight, because power output it uses both of those factors. I came up with a secondary example, which was a little bit, this is a little bit nerdy, but bear with me. There's a workout called Jackie, which some of you might be familiar with at the CrossFit Games in 2022. There was a version of it called Jackie Pro. Jackie uses an empty barbell and has pull-ups. Jackie Pro had thrusters at weight and 30 bar muscle ups. The winner for the men did Jackie Pro in 8 minutes, and I would assume that he'd have about a 5-minute Jackie. If we did the power output on this workout, the row is the same. So really what we're comparing is how long would it take you to be doing the 50 thrusters and 30 pull-ups versus these 50 thrusters at heavy weight and 30 bar muscle ups. And even with the additional weight and the additional range of motion on the bar muscle up, my calculation is that the Jackie power output was still higher than the Jackie Pro output. So, you know, this is a level of detail which is interesting for us to just understand, right, how does complex movements and heavier weight affect our power output? But ultimately, it's not like you should be like, right, so you're saying we just do this one? Absolutely not. Do both of these things and experience them as part of variance, and understand that it will change the workout that you're having. Just some final notes on scaling. I use the example of scaling weight, but the same thought process would apply to scaling any component of a workout. If you scaled complex movements, so muscle ups to pull ups, if you scaled reps, if you brought the reps down so you didn't have to come off and shake out your arms or something like that. If you change the object, if you change it from a barbell to a dumbbell, that will change the power output and is a really good example of scaling. By the way, dumbbells aren't necessarily scaling. It would be scaling if the workout was a barbell movement. If you change the rep scheme, so turning a chipper into something like rounds, so rather than doing big sets, you turned it into little sets that you did rounds of, that would change the power output. And naturally, if you change the time of a workout, that would also change as well. And you would ask the same questions. These are the questions to ask when you want to ask your coach that question, what weight should I use? These are the questions that you and them should contemplate together. Am I going to get high power output with this option? This speaks to preserving the intensity or the stimulus of the workout. The second question, is this bringing me closer to RX? And this speaks to variance. Are you always scaling the same thing the same way? If so, maybe change it up. Maybe make it a little bit heavier. Maybe make it a little bit harder. Push yourself away from your tendency and see how scaling with great variance can really up your results. That's Coach's Thoughts this week.